What a beautiful, beautiful morning of celebrating so many different things this morning. Morality, law, and the real world. I'm interested in the intersection of these different things. How does a value or moral position turn into legislation and then impact the real world? There are so many important questions just packed into that. Should civic law be used to enforce specific moral positions? If so, who sets the moral parameters? How can citizens of different religions with assumedly different ethical systems navigate the majority's moral positions, or must they submit to it? And even, does morality evolve, or is it static? In the Talmud, in the midst of arguments back and forth, when the theoretical explanations keep spinning, the questions can be asked, my nafka mina, which is basically what emerges from this, or so what about an argument, or how does this apply in the real world? In the midst of the heady questions above, I ask myself, my nafka mina, a lot. While the political philosophy of John Stuart Mill or John Locke or Thomas Hobbes and so many others before and after intrigue me, my nafka mina, what are the real world implications? On the back of a napkin, I believe in part that the practical implications of law should be to protect each other, to cultivate an equal environment in which people can be respected and thrive, and to resolve disputes. Interesting to me, where the Talmud lays out the 7 Noahide laws, the laws for non-Jews to follow in order to have a place in the world to come, number 7 is to establish a court of justice. But how is this being done in real life, in our world today? I think the answer is both mixed and troubling. There are areas to point to of progress. This is outdated, but in a 2010 report from the Movement Advancement Project, which tracks legislation, they say between 2000 and 2009, states outlawing discrimination based on sexual orientation moved from 12 states to 22 states. Again, I'm sure it's moved even further. States outlawing discrimination based on gender identity. In 2000, there was 1 state, and in 2009, it moved to 14 states. These statistics are over a decade old, and we have experienced tremendous turmoil in the intervening years. But I know that more progress continues. At every level of federal, state, and local governments, though, a specific morality is being pushed which discriminates and instills fear and chills the environment. From book publishers to medical treatments, agendas are being pushed which I know will result in the death of young people, struggling to be seen and understand who they are. From legislation restrictions on gender-affirming care to corporate attacks on places like Disney or Target, it's in the headlines each week now. An agenda is being pushed that pulls us backwards to a darker time. So let me give you a simple example. Let's just talk about book banning. Because book banning is something that we have to actively confront today. In reporting by the newspaper, The Tennessean, what is happening in the State House in Nashville is concerning. They are passing laws which would punish librarians who check out certain obscene material. They're also punishing publishers who produce these books, thus causing a chill in the book publishing industry before books even get picked up. Now remember, the determiners of what is allowed or considered obscene is envisioned as a group of a narrow perspective of what is acceptable or normative and proper according to their image of specific lifestyles or family structures. I think we all agree with a general sense of obscenity, but the devil is in the details. It matters how it is defined. So the article says, and this is just from last week, the bill, SB 1059, will open book publishers and distributors to criminal prosecution if they knowingly send obscene materials to public schools, a decision that one free expression expert is calling a smokescreen. When you look around, quote, when you look around the country, a lot of parents' rights concerns are increasingly a smokescreen for censorship of education, said Jonathan Friedman, director of the Free Expression and Education programs at Penn America. He continues, I see so many of these laws popping up around the country as ways in which parents can get things removed, with not much talk about what actually concerns students today. The article continues, after it goes into effect on July 1, just a month from now, less than a month from now, the bill will open book publishers and vendors to a Class E felony charge with a minimum of $10,000 fine and 1 to 6 years in prison for knowingly selling or distributing obscene matters to a public school. This is State Senator Joey Hensel's second notable bill dealing with limiting book access. In early 2022, he was also at the helm of a controversial bill that would prohibit any library from making obscene materials or materials harmful to minors available to students in school libraries, as well as to remove the legal exception currently protecting librarians and other school personnel from being charged with a criminal offense over the presence of such material in libraries. So let me give you an example of the obscene material they're talking about in Tennessee. In Tennessee, it is focused on the book Mother Bruce by Ryan Higgins. Prepare yourself for the obscenity obtained herein. Here it is, Mother Bruce. It's a whole series. Bruce the Bear is a whole series. I've read it. I don't see the obscenity in it. Goodreads summarizes the book. Bruce the Bear likes to keep to himself, that and to eat eggs. But when his hard-boiled goose eggs turn out to be real life goslings, he starts to lose his appetite. And even worse, the goslings are convinced he's their mother. Bruce tries to get the geese to go south, but he can't seem to rid himself of his new companions. What's a bear to do? The summary says. So Bruce raises the goslings. He teaches them to swim, to fly, and he even, at the end of the book, spoiler alert, he visits Miami with them every year because geese go south for the winter. But Mother Bruce is banned as obscene. Single fatherhood? Interspecies parenting, maybe? Adoption? Like, what are the things that qualify this book to be banned? What is the obscenity here? When I was talking with my son Ben, who is gay, about this earlier in the week, he said they're trying to erase us. And I think Ben is right. People are trying to legislate an erasure of our neighbors and friends and family who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. People are trying to erase our children, our family members, our friends, our community leaders, and it is unacceptable. I saw a post by an online blogger, which I thought was so beautiful. He goes by the name The Book Wrangler. And yes, it's a site for book lovers. And this is what he posts. Not once did anyone read a story to me when I was a kid where the characters were LGBTQ+, except maybe Frog and Toad. In school and at home, they did read stories to me about straight, cisgender characters who had nuclear families. And guess what? It turns out no matter how many of those stories people read to me, or we read together, or I read on my own, I never changed. Gay then, gay now, born gay, he says. None of the books ever made me straight, even though all the characters in them were. But none of the books validated who I was and how I was feeling, that I was normal and okay and accepted and valued and seen and worthy of love. What if someone had read me a story about a gay man who ran for president, or a gay artist, or a lesbian scientist, or a trans musician, or a queer CEO? What if I saw illustrations that showed two men happily married and raising a child of their own? What if I could have chosen a book about a knight who rescues and falls in love with a prince? They'll have to believe that children's books with LGBTQ+ characters and themes are filled with pornographic material or sexual content, that reading these stories will indoctrinate your child into the queer community. Instead, they're filled with celebrations of individuality and acceptance, loving families and powerful allies, successful people who overcame hatred and prejudice, and innovative thinkers and their novel and artistic contributions. Reading books won't turn children into something they are not, but it can help show them who they are. #pride, he writes. It is our job to help our children see who they are. They are loved and created in the image of God, and cherished and capable and resilient and in process. I want to conclude with the blessing that I offered earlier. It is the priestly blessing from this week's reading. And I offer this to those who feel unseen. You are seen here. To those who are afraid, you are safe here. To those who are discovering themselves or an identity of a family member, you are enough here. Naftali's Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, also known as the Netziv, mid-19th century Lithuania, he comments on this. May God bless you. He says that you should include in this blessing whatever is appropriate for each person to be blessed with this. For one who deals in Torah, it is study. For one who deals in commerce, it is his merchandise. Thus is included in this general blessing, may God bless you, an additional blessing for each person about what he needs. So as I offer this blessing to you, I hope that you receive the blessing that you need at this moment. The blessing of place, the blessing of being seen, and the blessing of being loved. Yevarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'uchaneka. Yisa Adonai panav alecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom. Shabbat shalom.